morning, everybody. That was the right answer. So, is there a limit? Yes, time is the limit today. I only have 15 minutes, and this is a very hard time for me to call, and I will try to talk as fast as possible. I already talk a lot. I'm Italian, so I apologize. Will talk with my hands and with my body, but I'm sure you apologize. So, today I'm here to tell you some stories about myself, about what I do with my organization, and I'll show you some pictures, and we'll try to convince you on something specific. And of course, I won't try to convince you, because you know already how important your cameras are, right? Or how important your smartphone is in taking photos, right? You do it all the time. Your entire life nowadays is based on visual communications, right? What I'm here today is to convince what can you do more with your cameras, and if only the presentation will advance. But you know what? I don't need a presentation. I will tell you. Because sometimes photography doesn't have to be shown, it can also be told, right? And it's a good exercise. Try to do it with your friend, just to tell about photography and the photographs that you've taken or that you would like to take. So what happened a few years back, and in a few months it will mark the 10th anniversary of my organization, Shoot4Change. Something happened by chance, you know? It's a serendipity, right? I started blogging about photography. I'm also a photographer. I'm a photographer myself. And I started talking about the important photographs of the past and their power and ability of bringing about social change. You might know some important, iconic photos that changed the world, right? The Tiananmen pictures, the pictures in the Vietnam War, the civil rights movement, the first picture of the Earth taken from the moon by the Apollo mission, right? They really changed the world, right? So I was fascinated by the concept, and I started blogging. Then, and I will cut the story short, but the next time I will talk more about my personal history and the history of Shoot4Change. Something happened. This blog boomed. I looked around, I looked back, and I saw many people following me on social media, so on the blog, even personally, when I started speaking in public. So I decided that we needed to put and to create a network of those people that were willing to use photography as a way of telling stories and to change the world. Now, this is the first limit. Can really photography change the world? Question mark. I'll give you the answer, or you'll give me the answer at the end of this presentation. So what happened? I created the word crowd photography with a nice hashtag before, rather than the quotes. Meaning that sometimes the storytelling, the telling a story could be a collaborative, a collective jobs, right? Everybody, each photographer can give and share part of the stories. Okay, finally my presentation, right. So, crowd photography is about getting down on the street with your cameras, with your smartphone, and be willing and ready to engage and to understand and look around what happens around the world, around yourself. And the main message is that you don't have to be the big star of photography. You don't have to be the big photographer of the National Geographic, right? And traveling the world, going to Afghanistan, to Africa, to South America, and to the Nepal to tell these stories that change the world. There are countless, tons of stories around the corner of your places in your neighborhood that are waiting to be told. So, this is the social commitment, social engagement, meeting photography. It's being able and willing to open your eyes, be aware, and be ready to accept and to be engaged in what happens around you, and tell the stories, and then share it with others. And those very small stories that are not considered remunerative by mainstream media, because no newspaper, no magazine will ever publish them, because they won't sell. They won't sell copies of the magazine. You know, in the US there is this saying, if it bleeds, it leads. Only dramatic stories reach the main newspapers, the main page, the front page of the newspapers. All the other positive stories are really in the last page or or somewhere else or on social media. They don't count. They do actually. But if you don't tell them, they will disappear. But if you tell them, they won't disappear, and if you show them and you share them, they will ignite and trigger a creative process of emulation around the world. So, when I say that the rich have their own photographers, it's because the core business of my organization, Shoot4Change, is that We work for free for those who cannot afford it. Like, for instance, there are small organization or a bunch of people in your neighborhood that do some good for others, like homeless shelter or helping refugees or empowering local communities and kids in remote rural areas. They don't have the means to afford the professional photographers to tell their stories or to help them on social media communication campaign, etc. We work for free for them in a professional way. And by the way, I should have told you that when I started alone, but now I have thousands of volunteers around the world, ranging from Pulitzer Prize winners, World Press Photo Award winners, to the amateurs, to kids, to whom we have taught photography that they became storytellers with us. We like to say that the rich have their own photographers. You know, all the campaigns, all the big and international NGO, they use big name of photographers. We are the photographers of everybody else, of the small local stories. I'm trying to rush up because I would like to tell you 2 or 3 particular stories that happened. And as I told you before, this year marks the 10th anniversary of Shoot4Change. One of the first, if not the first project that we did in Rome, in Italy, was in this homeless shelter, because we decided to start our narrative, our storytelling, in giving a voice to those who are not heard and a face to those who are not seen, right? You might have heard the term social invisibility, right? How many times you see beggars in the street, homeless or refugee asking for money or something, or just simply staying there lying on the ground, and we pretend we don't see them. It's not them, they are invisible. It's us that we are blind. We don't want to see them. So we try to counteract this. We try to put and to bring in the face of public opinion what happens in the street. So what happened, I created a small team of professional photographers together with amateurs and beginners alike. We went to this very important, it's a small one, but very active homeless shelter next to the Termini station, the main railroad station in Rome. And we set up a photography studio and we started shooting portraits to these homeless people, okay? It has been done a dozen times before. We didn't reinvent the wheels, but we did it our own way, in a concerned and aware way. After that, after a few days, we brought back the printed pictures of those people, very nice people. They did they put on the makeup before. There was a makeup artist before. They were looking really beautiful in this picture, right? We bought frames, so we presented them as gifts. At the end of the day, one of these old woman shelter and a homeless woman in the shelter came to me with a little bit, I mean, a teardrop in her eyes, and I told her, look, what's wrong? What's going on? She was holding her portrait. She said, look, first of all, I never had a gift in my own life. Second, this is not me in the picture. I've never looked so beautiful and happy in my life. And I told her, look, photography doesn't lie. This is how we saw you. This is how you are. And we left. After a few weeks' time, we received an email from the manager, the director general of the shelter, saying, look, after you guys left, something extraordinary happened. These people started to washing themselves every day. They take shower every day. They dress up every day. They care about each other. They care about themselves a lot. And they always carry those portraits with them wherever they go, even when they sleep in the street, right? And when we ask them why you do that, they always ask, we want to stay as beautiful as in our portraits, in our pictures. And then after a few months, we did a beautiful, huge collective exhibition in downtown Rome, in a beautiful historical building in downtown Rome. And we had a collective exhibition, so about 100 different stories, plus huge portraits of those people, and they were our guests of honor. So they came. There's somewhere in the YouTube still a backstage video of what happened. They came to the exhibition and they were so excited. They were walking around. They were dressed up very nice with the catalog of the exhibition, and they were looking and pointing at their portraits on the walls, and they were happy because the people were recognizing them. So for the first time, this is the magic of photography and what we do. They were not invisible anymore, right? We took them, we showed them that it's possible to be seen, and it's only our fault that we don't see them, right? And we treated them with dignity. This is, I mean, it still gives me shiver in my back every time I think about it, because it's really one of the most rewarding things you can do in your life. Empower people and tell them the truth about them. Then, what else? as I said, we like to tell small local stories that can make really a big difference, and then without telling them, they will disappear. There are stories that need to be told. You might have heard the stories about the Parc Maximilian here in Brussels, right? It has been going for a long time. There are like normal Brussels people, citizens, went in the nighttime to pick some of those refugee or asylum seeker and gave them, and well, I think they still do, they give them hospitality in their own places for 1 or 2 or 3 nights, right? This is a story that almost nobody knows, because we don't want to listen to this. And this is where Shoot4Change comes in. We want to counterbalance the information. We want to tell the positive stories of what of nice happens around the corner of our place. Time is running fast, so I will tell you another quick stories. First of all, we are engaging with a lot of communalities and communities and municipalities around the world. For instance, one of the next projects will be in the south part of Italy, in Grottaglie. It has been elected one of the European sport cities in 2020. So we agreed with the municipality that we will empower the people of this very small village in the southern part of Italy, and teaching the kids and the teenagers how to tell stories, and to become watchdogs on their administration, on how the administration will spend the public money for these kind of events. And also on how to tell stories of sport as an integration, as a mean of inclusion, also with refugees, handicapped people, and so on and so forth. So this is a very good stories that gives you an example on how you can be creative with photography and doing something else rather than the classic selfie or shooting picture of the friends, which is totally right and fine. I do it all the time. Then the other nice stories with another project we did in Molenbeek a couple of years ago. We went there to la Maison de la Culture. I think that's the name, and we taught about Shoot4Change to those teenagers, right? And we told them, okay, let's do this project. I mean, there is a misrepresentation of you guys around the world, right? Just after the terror attacks, Molenbeek all at once became the most horrible places in the world, which is wrong. There's a lot of great people down there, a lot of creative people. The new generation of Molenbeek is amazingly creative and interesting. You should go there more often. So we taught them how to tell stories with their cameras, because there are techniques, right? And we didn't put the limit of our normal camera, because we told them, look, you can also use your smartphone, because at the end of the day, to take a photograph, what does it take? Which is the most important things of taking a photograph, a good photograph? No, the photographer. You don't need to have a big camera, a big lens, or a Lomo camera, or a Nikon, a Canon, or the latest model of smartphone. You just need to compose it and to be able to tell stories. The content is much more important of the technical. That is gymnastic, that is mechanic. You will learn it over the years. You have to open your eyes and align it with your brain and with your heart. So we told them, go around, look around for nice stories, and be inspired by what happens in your community, in your network. And they came out and they came back with beautiful stories of beautiful people that were inspiring them. So we did a huge exhibition that went around Europe, and it was a huge success. So now they are our storytellers, and they keep telling stories in their communities. So I'm finishing these to tell you that you can become storytellers. There's nothing more rewarding than telling stories. Telling stories is important because it gives a sense to what we are, to what we do, to where we're going. And in our concept of crowd photography and social commitment is a Shoot4Change style, because it started as a blog, it became a registered international NGO, and then eventually became a sort of movement of people that understand that you need to get in the street and telling stories, because in doing that, and this is the answer to my initial question, can photography change the world? It cannot. It does not change it. I don't think it does. It can ignite and trigger debate, a conversation, a discussion. It can move the public opinion, but it doesn't really change the world. The world that changes is yours, because when you go around looking for a story, you have to keep your eyes open. If you keep your eyes open, you see things. If you see things, you start learning things. If you learn things, you understand what goes on around yourself. You go out of your comfort zone. You go out of your bubble with your camera, with your smartphone. When you click it, you learn. When you learn, you're aware. And when you're aware, there's no way back anymore. You cannot say anymore, I didn't know. I was not aware. I couldn't imagine that these things happen just in the block, in my neighbor's house. You're aware. And then the final things, which is the limit. We operate in very difficult situations, not only in positive stories, but also in war and social crisis zone. Like I've been personally in Afghanistan, in Lebanon, during the war, etc. And when you have in front of yourself some very bad stories, like for instance, the worst case scenario is like a mother holding a dying or a dead, at worst, child. Some photographers will never really think twice. They will just raise the camera and point and shoot, right? Because they will thinking about the future candidature to an award prize, like World Press Photo Award or something. If you really are concerned photographer, if you want to treat it with dignity, when you cross the eyesight of the woman before or while you raise your cameras, it's like you are signing silently and gently a gentleman's agreement. She concedes to give you her stories, a drama, a tragedy, and you agree to treat it with dignity. And your duty is to carry on that story and bear it on your shoulder and share it with everybody else. So now I thank you very much, and I thank you very much because these stories are important and they will disappear without a storyteller to tell. But a storyteller is nobody and nothing without somebody listening to him. Thank you very much.